Right guys, this is a response video to Matt from SCHOLAGLADIATORIA and it's about the ninja swords. Okay, so recently Matt posted a video on ninja swords and I just wanted to add some stuff there which wasn't mentioned or, wasn't really done more in depth. So I would like to add to it if that's okay and give my tuppence worth. So basically, the ninja toe, the ninja sword, okay, considered a myth. But one thing Matt didn't talk about was what did the ninja actually say they use? What do the scrolls say? So the Book of Ninja, yep. And you got Book of Samurai, which is just our modern title for it, but which was written by a practicing ninja. Because ninjas and samurai are not different. Ninjas are a subculture of samurai. It's the same as officers and ranks in the army. There are different. There are grenadiers, dragoons, engineers, all them types, what I mean? You could go on forever with all the different types of people. Ninjas are just one of those. So what do the ninjas actually say about their own swords? So when you actually analyse the scrolls, it's difficult to say which is most popular, but tachi is probably the most used thing, or katana. So for example, in the Bansen Shukai, which is considered the Bible of ninjutsu, he uses the word tachi. But we have to be really careful here because Miyamoto Masashi himself says in the old days, tachi meant longer sword and short sword, so daisho. So long sword meant tachi and short sword meant katana, whereas today, 1643-ish, long sword means katana and short sword means wakizashi. Okay, so then if you really want to know, there isn't so much of a massive cut-off between tachi katana, wakizashi and chisai katana. Okay, there's no strict like we have got them. They just sort of blend into each other, but that will depend on the year. So this is another problem. We don't know what the ninja of the Sengoku period said they were using. Okay, because we don't have that much documentation from then, and that's when they were doing their main thing, so before 1600. But let me tell you another thing. Actually, most people before 1600 owned a sword of some style. It's like we own a car today. Nearly everybody owns a car, with a handful of people who don't. In ancient Japan, medieval Japan, a high percentage of people owned a blade. Whether it was a wakizashi, whether it was daito, the two swords. Non-samurai used two swords. In fact, we have letters from farmers or complaints about, we have an account of somebody who says farmers are complaining that they can no longer use two swords because the ban has been put in place in like the late 1500s. So the idea of who uses what swords, first of all, is a difficult one in Japan. And do ninjas use a ninja sword? Well, we don't actually know what swords people were using. A lot of people were still using tachi right up into the Edo period, and the tachi was it was a very prestigious sword. Not only that, you got subgenres. You got court tachis and robust field tachis. Then you get uchi katana, short katana basically, and then long wakizashi. There isn't really a distinction. So the only thing that we can really say is were ninja swords straight or not. Well, that's another thing that becomes a problem, because we know Japanese swords were very curved, but later on, I don't give you the exact dates in case I get it wrong, but towards the end of the 1500s and rolling into the Edo period, we start to get swords that appear straight. Now, they're not straight. They have got an absolutely curved profile. Yeah, the profile is definitely curved. They're designed as a curved sword. They are a saber. They are a curved mounted sword, if you like, but they are absolutely nearly razor straight, because there's a small measurement that you make from tip to tang, basically, or around this end, and you measure the line between that and the depth of curve, and some of them measure less than a couple of millimeters. So the curve on a Japanese sword is actually nigh on nothing, and you can still get square guards. But is there any evidence of the ninja using these? No, none whatsoever. In fact, the evidence is against that. It tells us they use tachi, and the word katana turns up. There's only one other place where it specifically says don't use a tachi or a katana, and that is in the True Path of the Ninja, which is the Shoninki from 1681, and that clearly states, it says, when you creep up on someone, and you basically shinobi up on someone, you want to be carrying a larger wakizashi. So not a short wakizashi, a larger wakizashi, okay? And then you can start getting there. Now, the reason for this, most likely, is because you're indoors. Now, we get loads of samurai documents that say, when you're indoors, if you've got a katana, thrust. If you've got a chance, take out your wakizashi and fight with your wakizashi. So we know full well that, you know, going indoors to fight people, other documents say take a wakizashi. So it's nothing amazing. But this specifically says, as a shinobi, when you creep up on people, most likely, brackets, indoors, use that. But the other ones clearly state, you know, and we've got Chikamatsu stuff from the late 1600s, early 1700s. And he is saying, you know, just basically using swords. You've got to be careful here, because the word katana actually just means sword. So we don't often use the word ken, which most of the time means Chinese straight sword. So normally in text you get a lot, especially in lower samurai text, you just get katana, to. You know what I mean? That's the kanji for it. So what else have we got to say about this? Okay, so we've got the fact that the documents claim to use all swords from tachi all the way down to chisai katana, okay? Now it talks also about mission type. So Matt talks about mission types, and he's like, depending on the mission they do, whether they take a sword or won't take a sword, which is absolutely correct. There's nothing about that. But that's an Edo period thing. You have to be very careful. In the Edo period, there was restrictions on swords. But don't forget, Hideyoshi actually banned... Basically, he disarmed the peasantry. And if you disarm the peasantry, it means they have arms. So if they have arms, the arms of the day are swords. So it gets me absolutely mad when people are like, no, I'm not talking about Matt here. I'm talking about people in general. People are like, nope, samurai are the only ones to use katana. No, they're not. Katana aren't even samurai swords. They're Japanese swords. I call them samurai swords. It's just easier. But yes, they are absolutely... I call them samurai swords. But they are absolutely just Japanese swords. Farmers, priests... Even priests carried swords at times. Sumo wrestlers. You've got people just carried swords in defence. You have an armed public. And then, like in England, you have the guns. You have the sword where you disarm the public. And then you allow only certain members of, you know, society to use swords. So then, so is it inspired by the Chinese straight sword? I don't see that personally. But the question, and I would love to get Matt's... He says there's a booklet from the 50s where it first turns up. I have tried this. Now, remembering, guys, I tried to go from the year 1600 backwards. So for me to start studying the ninja from the 1980s backwards, I haven't got the literature there. I need to collect loads of magazines, and I'm starting to build a magazine collection of all the things that went on in the 80s. So if you've got any old ninja magazines, email me and send them to me, please. But basically... it just dissolves into blackness. There just appears to be a ninja sword. Now, I did try and run a competition for this where I said I'd give a book out, but people wrote stuff down, but you could not find it at all. Could not find these things people were talking about. So I couldn't even send the books out. It was like there was nobody who could find these earlier stuff. So what we do then basically is what we're going to do is round up there. So all I can say about that is what we've got is Matt's right, but I just wanted to add on that you've got all what the ninjas say. You've got to think about the types of swords that are being used in Japan, okay? And then you've got to roll all that together, and the conclusion is they're using tachi, katana, occasionally wakizashi. If they're going outside, they're most likely using shorter spears, tachi. If they're going inside, they're going to use shorter daggers, shorter blades. So there you go. All right, guys, my name's Anthony Cummins. Get yourself a copy of this. This is the Book of Ninja, How to Be a Modern Samurai, Book of Bushido, all on Audible at the minute, guys. Get yourself a copy on Audible. All right, see you later.